Hey guys, you're welcome back to my channel today. Thank you so much for stopping by. In this video, we'll be cutting and sewing this corset blouse with Basque waistline. So if you're interested, keep on watching and let's get started. So I went ahead to mark all my points and I ruled straight line across the points. The distance from my shoulder to my bust point is 11 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my under bust point is 14 inches. Distance from my shoulder to my waist point is 17 inches and the top length is 23 inches. I went ahead to use straight lines across the point, so I'll label my points, my bust line, my under bust line, my waistline and my top length. On the start of this pattern paper, which is going to serve as my shoulder line, I'll take half of my shoulder measurement, which is 8 inches. I'll indicate that with a point. On that point, I'll go down by 1 inch for my shoulder slope. I'll also indicate the 1 inch mark. After doing that, I'll slant from that point to the neckline area, just like you see me doing. So to get my chest line, I'm going to go up from my bust line by 2 inches and I'll rule a straight line across. So this new line is my chest line. After doing that, what I have on my shoulder line, I'll measure it is 8 inches. I'll mark the same 8 inches on my chest line. I'll indicate that with a point, and then I'll connect the point on the shoulder slope to meet the point on the chest line. I'll connect both points into a straight line. After doing that, I'll place my tape on that straight line, and whatever I have, I'll divide it into 2 equal halves. What I have was 8 inches. Half of 8 inches is 4 inches. I indicated that, and I came inward by half an inch on that point, okay? On my chest line, I'll go ahead and place my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll indicate that with a dot. After doing that, I'll use my curved ruler to connect from the shoulder slope to meet the half an inch that I came inward with, and from there to meet the point on my chest line, just like this. After doing that, the next thing I'll do is to take my bust span measurement, which is half of my nipple to nipple measurement. Mine is 4 inches. I'll place the measurement on my bust point, on my under bust point, on my waistline and on the top length, and then I'll connect all the dots into a straight line. After doing that, I'll go ahead and take in my darts. On the waistline, I'll go ahead and take half an inch on the center front and on the side front. On the bust line, I'm going to go down by 1 inch. I'll go down by 1 inch. I will indicate it with a point. After doing that, I'll go ahead and connect the dart lines. So I'll connect from the 1 inch to meet the half an inch on the waistline, and from the half an inch on the waistline, I'll connect to meet my top length, just like you see me doing. On my under bust line, regardless of the dart that we already took on the under bust line, I'll place my tape after the dart and I'll go out by another half an inch, okay? So I'm going to mark half an inch out on the center front and I'll mark another half an inch on the side front. So note that I'm placing my tape after the other dart, okay? That's the previous dart. So after doing that, I'm going to connect into a straight line to meet my top length, just like you see me doing, okay? So after doing that, guys, I'm going to connect from that point to meet the 1 inch mark that we came down with from the bust point, okay? So you can use your free hand to do this. So guys, the next thing I will do is to go up from my chest line by 1 inch. So at this point, you get to determine if you want your chest area to be revealing. So I'm just going to go up by 1 inch. If you like, you can do 1.5 inches or 2 inches. I marked the point and I ruled a straight line across that 1 inch. So guys, next thing I will do is to mark my neck width and neck depth. Even though we don't really need this, I did 3 by 3 inches, which is the standard neckline. So what I'm going to do is to place my tape on the shoulder line, and whatever I have, I'll divide it into 2. So what I have is 5 inches. Half of 5 inches is 2.5 inches. I will indicate that with a point. After doing that, I'm going to connect from that 2.5 inches straight to meet the that line that we have on the chest line. So guys, the next thing I'm going to do is to tighten my over bust, and to do that you are going to measure what you have on your under bust line, and whatever you have you are going to divide it on equally, okay? So what I had was 1.5 inches, so I gave 1 inch to the side front and half inch to the center front. So whatever you have, give the bigger side to the side front and the smaller part to the center front, okay? After doing that, I went out by 1/4 inch. After the dart that I took, I went out by another 1/4 inch on both sides of the dart to avoid gaping, okay? After doing that, I used my roller to connect to meet the bust point like this. So the next thing I did was to go inward by 1/2 inch on the previous chest line, okay? I want to maintain this chest line, so I went in by 1/2 inch. I indicated that with a point. From that 1/2 inch, I connected like this to meet that leg on the center front. After doing that, I also use my ruler to connect, okay, from the 1/2 inch mark to meet the under bust, okay? So when connecting, make sure you are leaving room for your bust to sit, okay? So I'm just going to connect like this. So we are done with one part of the cup. The next thing I'm going to do is to measure this small part that I have on this armhole area, okay? And whatever I have, I'm going to divide it into 2. So I'm doing this because this top does not have an armhole, okay? So what I had was 2 inches. I indicated half of 2 inches, which is 1 inch with a dot. On that dot, I'll go down by 1/2 inch. I'll also indicate the 1/2 inch with a dot like this. So on the 1/2 inch, I'm going to rule a straight line across. So this is going to be my new armhole. So I'll connect from this dart leg to meet the 1/2 inch, just like you see me doing. And after doing that, I'll connect from that point to meet the under bust point like this. So we are done with the second cup. So what I'll do is to go ahead and label my cup so I don't get confused. So I have the center front, which is cup 1, and the side front, which is cup 2. So the next thing I'll do is to go ahead and start placing my measurements. On my bust point, I already have my bust circumference divided by 4. I'll go ahead and replace the dart. I'm not adding stitching allowance to this pattern yet. On the under bust point, I'll place my under bust circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart. On the waistline, I'll place my waist circumference divided by 4. I'll replace the dart. And on the top length, I'll place my hip circumference divided by 4. I'll also go ahead and replace the dart. After doing that, I'll go ahead and cut. So look at the way I'm cutting so you know where to cut. I'm going to add my stitching allowance on my fabric. So guys, I'm done cutting. What I'm going to do is to join my center front and my side front together, so that when I'm cutting, since I've already taken in my dart, I'm just going to cut one piece. So to get the basque waistline, I'm going to join to this pattern paper. I'll join another fresh piece of pattern paper to my pattern, and then I'm going to mark where my waistline is, okay? So don't forget to label. I'll figure out where my waistline is. On that waistline, remember my waistline was 17 inches, and 17 inches will be too short for me, so I'm going to go down from the waistline by 4 inches. So the length of the top on the side is going to be 21 inches. So for the basque waistline, my top length stops at 23 inches. I already know because that is where I stapled another fresh piece of pattern paper. So I want the basque waistline to be 4 inches long. So from that part where I used my sellotape to hold, I'll go down by 4 inches, and then I'll come inward like this by 2.5 inches, just like you see me doing. And then I'm going to connect from the 2.5 inches to meet the 4 inches mark from the waistline, just like you see me doing. I hope that you understand. So I'm trying to create the basque waistline. After doing that, I went ahead to cut, and that is all for the front. So I'll be using the front to cut out the back. So because the front has a basque waistline, the front is going to be longer than the back. What I'll do is to mark 1.5 inches, which is going to serve as my zipper allowance, and from that zipper allowance, I'm going to place the front pattern paper. So the back is going to stop at the waistline. So just look at the way I placed my pattern paper. So the front and the back is going to be equal on the waistline, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and trace out the upper part of this pattern paper by ruling a straight line on it, and I'll also trace out the sides. Okay, so every other thing is the same. After doing that, I'll go ahead and cut. So personally, I don't take that for the back of my corset, so I'm not going to take that at all. And thankfully, I've already closed the darts for the front. So once I place my pattern paper back, guys, this is what I have. Okay, so you can leave the back neckline like this, and if you want, you can go ahead and make it deep. Okay, so I'm just going to place my ruler like this, and I'll slant to meet the other side, just so the back is not that straight. And if you want to add loop to the back of your top, there is no need to add any zipper allowance. Just go ahead and reduce the back by 2 inches or 1.5 inches. It depends on what you want. Okay, so after doing that, guys, the last thing I'm going to do is to adjust my zipper area. So I'm going to go in by 1 inch, just like you see me doing on the waistline, and then I will slant from there to meet the shoulder line. So I'm doing this to avoid zip bulge, so my zip sits well when I fix it. After doing that, I'll cut that out. And yeah, guys, these are all the patterns that we'll be needing for this tutorial. So what I'm going to do is to place this pattern on my fabric, and I'll go ahead and cut. So remember, I did not add my stitching allowance on this pattern paper, so I'll be adding stitching allowance on the fabric. So I've gone ahead to fold my fabric into two. This is the front, so the center front should be on fold, and I went ahead to add half an inch to the cup area, the base, the side, and on the side I went ahead to add my stitching allowance. Okay, so I'll go ahead and cut. I also went ahead to repeat the same thing for the back and the cups. Okay, make sure you add allowance all the way around so you don't run short of fabric. So I'll go ahead and cut. So guys, after cutting on my fabric, this is what I have. You can see my stitching allowance all the way around. So what I'm going to do is to place this fabric on my lining piece, and I'll cut out exactly what I have. I'll also go ahead and iron hair stay to the front and to the cups. And yeah, guys, that is all for the pattern drafting of this tutorial. Please stay tuned for the sewing version of this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your questions in the comment section. I'll see you in the next one.